The gray sky hung like a shroud over the cemetery, weeping soft tears upon the gathering of black-clad mourners. Emma stood motionless before the freshly dug grave, her slender fingers clutching a single white lily so tightly that her knuckles matched its pallor. 20 years of marriage had ended, not with a whisper, but with the thunderous silence of Daniel's unexpected heart attack. At 45, her husband, a respected cardiologist who saved countless lives but couldn't save his own, was gone. "He looked so peaceful," whispered a colleague, squeezing Emma's shoulder before moving away. Emma didn't respond. She couldn't. The irony tasted bitter in her mouth. The man who understood the human heart better than anyone had kept secrets within his own. She felt it, had always felt it, in the way he sometimes gazed into the distance during quiet moments, as if looking at a horizon she couldn't see. From across the grave, Margaret, Daniel's mother, watched her with red-rimmed eyes that reflected something beyond simple grief. At 70, the elegant woman carried herself with the same dignified posture as always, but today there was a tremor in her hands, a hesitation in her gaze when it met Emma's. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Stevens," said the Reverend, his practiced condolences falling flat against the wall of Emma's numbness. "Thank you," she replied automatically, her voice foreign to her own ears. The service concluded. People dispersed like scattered leaves, murmuring condolences and memories of the beloved doctor. Emma remained, watching as the cemetery workers waited at a respectful distance, their shovels ready to complete the burial once she departed. A flash of memory hit her. Daniel's hand, so steady in surgery, trembling slightly as he tied her necklace on their 20th anniversary just 3 months ago. Had he known then? Had his physician's intuition warned him? "Emma." Margaret's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "We should go. The lawyer is waiting." The reading of the will was mercifully brief. Daniel had left everything in order, as methodical in death as he had been in life. Their modest mansion, his retirement fund, even instructions for his precious collection of vintage medical instruments, all meticulously detailed. "And finally," the lawyer said, adjusting his glasses, "there is a personal item that Dr. Stevens requested be given directly to Mrs. Emma Stevens, with the specific instruction that it be opened in private." The lawyer slid a polished wooden box across the table. No larger than a hardcover book, its surface gleamed with the patina of age and careful handling. A small brass lock secured its contents. "The key?" Emma asked, her voice barely audible. "He kept it on his keychain," Margaret interjected too quickly. "I removed it before they took him." She reached into her purse with shaking hands and extracted a tiny brass key that matched the lock. Their eyes met as she passed it to Emma, and in that moment, Emma knew. Whatever lay inside that box had haunted Margaret for years. Back in the emptiness of their home, Emma sat at Daniel's desk, the box before her, the key burning in her palm. Family photos surrounded her. Their wedding day, holidays, the nursery they had lovingly prepared 8 years ago for the daughter who didn't survive the birth. Emma touched her abdomen unconsciously, remembering the stillborn child they had named Lily. With a deep breath, she inserted the key. The lock yielded with a soft click. Inside, nestled on velvet, lay a photograph, worn at the edges, clearly handled often. A little boy, perhaps 5 years old, with Daniel's unmistakable eyes and dimpled smile, stood in front of a modest cottage, clutching a toy stethoscope. The timestamp in the corner indicated it was taken 4 years ago. Beneath it, a handwritten note in Daniel's precise script. "I couldn't tell you. Forgive me." The room spun around her as Emma's fingers went numb. The photo fluttered to the floor as a sob tore from her throat. Raw, primal, a sound she hadn't made since the day they lowered their tiny daughter's coffin into the ground. She thought she had lost everything when Daniel died. But in that moment, as the truth crashed over her like a merciless wave, Emma realized the real devastation was just beginning. Her husband had taken his last breath with this secret locked inside him. And now, she was drowning in its revelation. The morning after discovering the photograph, Emma drove to Margaret's house, her hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Sleep had eluded her, leaving her eyes sunken and her mind sharp with betrayal. The suburban neighborhood where Margaret had lived for 40 years seemed unnaturally quiet, as if holding its breath in anticipation of the confrontation to come. Emma didn't bother knocking. Her key slid into the lock, the same key Daniel had given her years ago, saying, "Family should never wait at the door." Family. The word tasted like ash in her mouth now. She found Margaret in the sunroom, watering her beloved orchids with trembling hands. At 70, Daniel's mother still maintained her dignified appearance. Silver hair perfectly coiffed, modest pearl earrings catching the morning light. But today she looked older, smaller, as if the weight of secrets had compressed her very bones. "You knew." Emma's voice cut through the silence, causing Margaret to startle, water spilling over the terracotta pot and onto the tile floor. Margaret turned slowly, her expression shifting from surprise to resignation as she saw the photograph in Emma's hand. "Sit down, Emma," she said softly. "Please." 9 years, Emma said, trembling with rage as she sank into a wicker chair. 9 years of marriage while he hid a child. Was I such a fool? Margaret set down her watering can and carefully lowered herself into the chair opposite Emma. "It happened only once, before he learned you were pregnant with Lily." Her voice wavered. "A conference in Chicago. He was presenting his research, celebrated too much. The woman was a pharmaceutical representative. And this makes it acceptable?" Emma's voice rose dangerously. "No," Margaret replied firmly. "Nothing excuses infidelity. But what came after?" She reached for the photograph with reverent fingers. "The woman contacted Daniel when the boy was 3. Said she couldn't handle motherhood alone anymore. Threatened to tell you everything unless he took the child." Emma's breath caught. "So he did take him?" "No," Margaret said, her eyes filling with tears. "He couldn't bring himself to tell you, especially after what happened with Lily. You were both still drowning in grief. So I stepped in." She straightened her shoulders. "I took the boy, found a cottage near the lake, about an hour from here, hired my former housekeeper Maria to live there, pose as his aunt." The revelation hit Emma like physical pain. "You've been raising his illegitimate son? All this time?" "His name is Noah," Margaret said, a hint of defiance entering her voice. "He's 9 now, and he's innocent in all this. Daniel visited whenever he could manage it without raising suspicion. He paid for everything, of course." Her voice softened. "Noah thinks his mother died, and Daniel was a family friend who checked on him." Emma stood abruptly, pacing the sunroom. Outside, birds continued their morning songs, oblivious to how her world was unraveling thread by thread. "Did you never think I deserved to know?" "Every day," Margaret whispered. "But Daniel was terrified of losing you. After Lily." She hesitated. "That grief nearly destroyed you both. He couldn't bear to add to your pain. So he lied instead," Emma said bitterly. "For years. He was planning to tell you," Margaret insisted. "When Noah turned 10. He thought enough time had passed." Her voice trailed off. "But then he died," Emma finished flatly. Margaret nodded, reaching for a tissue. "Now, I visit twice a week. Maria is getting older. Her arthritis is worsening. And Noah." Her voice broke. "He's asking questions. About his father, about family." Emma turned to the window, watching a cardinal land on the bird feeder. Red, like the rage that pulsed behind her eyes. Red, like the blood that connected this unknown boy to her husband. To the family they should have been. "I want to see him," she said suddenly, surprising herself with the declaration. Margaret's head snapped up. "You do?" "Not for his sake," Emma clarified, her voice hard. "For mine. I need to see this child with my own eyes." "He has Daniel's laugh," Margaret said carefully, "and his kindness." "Don't," Emma warned. "Don't try to make me love him." "I would never presume to tell you how to feel," Margaret replied. "But he is my grandson, Emma. He is all that remains of my son. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And I'm dying. The blunt statement froze Emma in place. What? A terminal illness, Margaret said, smoothing her skirt with practiced dignity. I have perhaps 3 months. I've been trying to find the courage to tell Daniel, to make arrangements for Noah. A bitter laugh escaped her. Ironic, isn't it? Now Daniel is gone, and I'm following soon after. A terminal illness. Stage 4, Margaret said, smoothing her skirt with practiced dignity. Emma sank back into the chair, her anger momentarily displaced by shock. Does Noah know about my illness? No. Margaret reached across the space between them, not quite touching Emma's hand. He's lost so much already. And soon, he'll lose me too. The unspoken question hung in the air between them, heavy as lead. Emma stood again, unable to remain still under its weight. I'll meet him tomorrow, she said finally. But I make no promises beyond that. Margaret nodded, relief washing over her face. Thank you. That's all I ask. She hesitated, then added softly, He's your blood too, Emma. Through Daniel. No, Emma corrected sharply. He's Daniel's blood, and Daniel's betrayal. Don't confuse the two. As she drove home, the photograph on the passenger seat seemed to watch her with Daniel's eyes, challenging her resolve. The child was innocent, yes, but he was also living proof of her husband's deception, a deception Margaret had helped maintain for years. Tomorrow she would face the consequence of that deception. Tomorrow she would look into the eyes of the boy who should never have existed. And somewhere in her shattered heart, a voice whispered that this meeting might destroy what little remained of Emma's world. The cottage looked like something from a storybook, nestled among towering pines, its stone chimney puffing gentle smoke into the crisp autumn air. Emma sat in her car, engine off, gathering courage for what lay ahead. This idyllic setting seemed too peaceful for the emotional hurricane brewing inside her. Margaret had texted the address that morning, along with a simple message. They're expecting you at 3. Thank you. Now, as the dashboard clock blinked 3:07, Emma finally stepped out of the car. The crunch of pine needles beneath her boots accompanied her heartbeat's thunderous rhythm. Before she could knock, the door swung open to reveal a plump, silver-haired woman with kind eyes and work-worn hands. Mrs. Emma? The woman asked in a thick Spanish accent. I am Maria. Please come in. The cottage's interior was humble but immaculate. Worn furniture arranged lovingly around a stone fireplace where flames danced merrily. The scent of cinnamon and apples perfumed the air, mingling with the distinctive smell of wood smoke. Family photos adorned the mantel, but Emma deliberately avoided looking at them. Where is he? She asked, her voice surprisingly steady. Maria gestured toward a closed door. In his room, drawing. He loves to draw. She hesitated. Mrs. Margaret explained you are family? The word stung. Something like that, Emma replied vaguely. I will bring tea, Maria said, sensing the tension. Noah, she called. Ven aquí. Your visitor is here. The door opened slowly, and time seemed to stop as the boy emerged. 9 years old, tall for his age, with a shock of dark hair that fell across his forehead exactly as Daniel's had. He wore jeans with patched knees and a blue sweater that emphasized the startling familiarity of his eyes. Eyes that widened slightly as they took in Emma's presence. Hello, he said politely, extending his hand as if he'd been coached on proper greetings. I'm Noah. Emma stared at the offered hand, small, with long fingers that resembled Daniel's surgeon hands in miniature. When she didn't immediately respond, the boy's confidence faltered. It's okay, he said softly. Abuela Maria says some people don't like handshakes. The gentle understanding in his voice broke something inside Emma. She took his hand briefly. I'm Emma, she managed. Noah's face lit up with recognition. You're the lady from Grandma Margaret's pictures. Emma's breath caught. She has pictures of me? In her special album, Noah confirmed, leading her to the sofa. She says you're family, but I never met you before. He studied her face with unnerving intensity. You have sad eyes. Like my dad in the pictures. Your dad? Emma couldn't hide her shock. Grandma says he had to go away, Noah explained matter-of-factly. But she has lots of pictures. Want to see my drawings? Before Emma could respond, Noah darted back to his room, returning with a sketchbook clutched proudly against his chest. He sat beside her, close but not touching, and opened to a detailed drawing of the cottage. This is our house, he explained, turning pages to reveal more drawings. The lake, a deer family, Margaret sitting in a garden chair. And this, he turned to a drawing of a man with his face turned slightly away, is my dad. I don't remember him much, but Grandma says he loved me very much. Emma's fingers trembled as she touched the page. The profile was unmistakably Daniel's, the strong jaw, the slight bump on the bridge of his nose from a childhood baseball accident. Noah had captured him perfectly, not from memory, but from studying photographs. This is very good, she whispered. Do you want to see my special drawing? Noah asked, turning to the back of the sketchbook. The page revealed a carefully rendered scene, a man, a woman, a boy, and a baby girl, all holding hands beneath a smiling sun. This is my wish family, he explained. Dad, me, and… He hesitated. I don't know who she would be. Maybe my mom in heaven? And the baby is the sister I wish I had. Emma couldn't breathe. The drawing was childish but unmistakable. The woman had her features, and the baby that had never drawn breath outside her womb, was there, holding Noah's hand. Grandma Margaret is sick, Noah said suddenly, his voice dropping to a whisper. She thinks I don't know, but I heard her on the phone with the doctor. His eyes, so like Daniel's, filled with tears. Everyone leaves. First Dad, now Grandma Margaret. Without thinking, Emma reached out, gently brushing back the hair from his forehead. I'm sorry, Noah. Are you going to leave too? He asked with devastating directness. Before she could answer, Maria returned with tea and cookies, her appearance breaking the moment's intensity. For the next hour, Emma watched Noah eat cookies, explain his drawings, and demonstrate how he could play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the small keyboard in the corner. Every movement, every expression, echoed Daniel so strongly that it physically hurt to watch. As the afternoon light began to fade, Maria quietly informed them that Margaret had called. She wasn't feeling well enough to join them as planned. Perhaps next time, Maria suggested, looking hopefully at Emma. Maybe, Emma said noncommittally, rising to leave. Noah walked her to the door, suddenly shy again. Will you come back? He asked, the vulnerability in his voice slicing through her defenses. Emma knelt to his level, finding herself looking directly into Daniel's eyes. I think I will. His small arms wrapped around her neck in a quick, unexpected hug that smelled of cookies and crayons and childhood innocence. Good, he whispered. Grandma Margaret says you're special. Driving away, Emma pulled over after a mile, unable to see through her tears. The boy, Noah, wasn't just Daniel's betrayal incarnate. He was a child who had lost a father he barely knew, who was about to lose a grandmother he adored, who drew pictures of wish families that included her and the daughter they had lost. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and finally allowed herself to weep, for Daniel, for Lily, for Margaret's imminent death, and for Noah, the innocent center of a storm he didn't create. When her phone rang, Margaret's name lighting up the screen, Emma answered with resignation. How was it? Margaret asked weakly. He has Daniel's eyes, Emma replied, and his kindness. The silence stretched between them until Margaret spoke again, her voice fading. Emma, I need to give you something. Please come tomorrow. It can't wait. As darkness fell over the winding road ahead, Emma realized she was driving not toward her empty house, but back toward Margaret's, pulled by an invisible thread that had begun to reweave the torn fabric of her understanding of family. Margaret's deterioration in just 24 hours was shocking. Propped against pillows in her bedroom, she looked like a fragile bird, her once elegant frame swallowed by the plush bedding. The silver hair that had always been perfectly styled now hung limply around her hollow cheeks. "The pain medication makes me sleep," she explained apologetically, gesturing weakly for Emma to sit beside the bed. "I wanted to wait until you met Noah before telling me how sick you really are," Emma finished, setting her purse down more forcefully than intended. "More secrets, Margaret? Even now?" A ghost of a smile touched Margaret's lips. "Old habits. I've spent so long protecting everyone." Emma's anger deflated at the sight of Margaret's suffering. "The doctors can't do anything." "They offered chemotherapy," Margaret replied. "But it would only buy weeks, not years. I'd rather spend my remaining time lucid and present." She reached toward the bedside table with a trembling hand. "There's something you need to see." From the drawer, she withdrew a worn leather journal, its pages swollen with what appeared to be additional papers tucked between them. "Daniel's diary," she explained. "He gave it to me for safekeeping last year when he started having chest pains." Emma stared at the journal but didn't take it. "More revelations? I'm not sure I can bear them." "Not revelations," Margaret corrected gently. "Confessions, regrets, love." Her voice broke on the last word. "Please, Emma. It might help you understand." Reluctantly, Emma accepted the journal, its leather warm and supple against her palms. Opening to a random page, she recognized Daniel's precise handwriting. "Watched Emma sleeping this morning, her face peaceful in ways it never is when she's awake. 8 years since we lost Lily, and still I see the shadow cross her eyes on random days, passing a playground, hearing a child's laughter. I am a coward. Every day I don't tell her about Noah, the chasm between us widens, though she doesn't know why. How do you confess to breaking the heart of the person you love most in the world?" Emma's vision blurred. She flipped to another entry, dated 3 years ago. "Noah asked about his mother today." Margaret called in a panic, unsure what to say. "We've told him she died when he was small, easier than explaining abandonment. But he's getting older, asking more questions. Soon lies won't satisfy him. I must tell Emma before he's much older. After her therapy session next week, perhaps. Her counselor says she's finally processing Lily's death in healthier ways." Tucked between the pages were photographs. Noah as a toddler, Noah on a tricycle, Noah blowing out birthday candles, and most devastatingly, a sealed envelope addressed to Emma in Daniel's handwriting, dated just 2 weeks before his death. "He never found the courage to give it to you," Margaret explained softly. "He was planning to tell you everything on your anniversary trip next month." With unsteady fingers, Emma opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. "My dearest Emma, by the time you read this, I will have told you about Noah. I pray you're still beside me, though I would understand if you've walked away. My cowardice has built a wall between us, brick by brick, year by year. Noah is my greatest mistake and my most undeserved blessing. Nothing justified my betrayal of you, especially as you carried our daughter. The shame has eaten me alive for 9 years. Margaret saved us both, you from this pain, and Noah from a life without family. I told myself I was protecting you after Lily, that your heart couldn't bear another blow. The truth is, I was protecting myself from losing you. I don't ask for forgiveness. I ask only that you don't punish Noah for my sins. He has your photograph on his nightstand, the one from our vacation in Santorini. Margaret gave it to him, told him you were family he hadn't met yet. In his innocent heart, he already loves you. If there is any mercy in your heart for him, please consider being part of his life someday. Not for me, not even for Margaret, but for a boy who has lost too much already. With eternal love and regret, Daniel." Emma pressed the letter to her chest, feeling the weight of Daniel's words sink into her heart. "He knew he was sick," she whispered. "The heart pains. He must have known." Margaret nodded weakly. "The doctors told him last year his heart condition was worsening. He kept it from you, just as he kept Noah from you. She reached for Emma's hand. My son was a good man who made terrible choices out of fear. Fear of losing me? Emma asked bitterly. Fear of causing you more pain, Margaret corrected. After Lily, her voice trailed off. Stop using our daughter as an excuse for his deception, Emma snapped, then immediately regretted her harshness as Margaret winced. I'm sorry. I deserved the truth, all of it. Yes, Margaret agreed simply. You did. A silence fell between them, broken only by the ticking of the antique clock on the mantel and Margaret's labored breathing. Noah needs a guardian, Margaret finally said. In my will, I've named you. Emma's head snapped up. Me? Margaret, I barely know him. You're his family, Margaret insisted. Maria is too old to raise him alone. There's no one else. She gripped Emma's wrist with surprising strength. I've set up a trust for his education. The cottage is paid for. Maria will stay as long as she's able. Her eyes, so like Daniel's, pleaded silently. Just promise you'll look after him. You don't have to love him right away. The implication hung in the air, that Emma might someday come to love Noah. The possibility both terrified and compelled her. What would I tell people? Emma asked, her practical nature asserting itself. How would I explain suddenly having a 9-year-old boy? The truth, Margaret suggested. Or as much of it as you wish to share. That he's Daniel's son from before your marriage, recently orphaned. She paused, gathering strength. People will talk regardless. They always do. Emma stood and walked to the window, watching autumn leaves dance across the manicured lawn. Behind her, Margaret's breathing had grown more labored. Noah asked me yesterday if I was going to leave too, Emma said softly. Everyone in his life disappears. Not everyone, Margaret whispered. Not if you stay. Emma turned back to the frail woman who had kept this monumental secret for nearly a decade. Out of love for her son, for her grandson, and perhaps even for Emma herself. I'll think about it, she promised. But I need time. Margaret closed her eyes, relief softening her features. Time is one thing I can no longer give, she murmured. But I trust you to make the right decision. A week later, Emma received the call from the hospice nurse. Margaret had passed peacefully in her sleep, the diary and a photograph of Noah clutched to her chest. As Emma entered the silent house to collect Margaret's personal items, she found a sealed envelope on the nightstand, addressed to her in Margaret's elegant script. Inside was a single photograph, Noah and Margaret in the garden of the cottage, laughing together, and a brief note. He will teach you to laugh again if you let him. Some secrets destroy. This one, I believe, will heal. Emma pressed the photograph to her heart, feeling the first tentative thread of connection to the boy who now had no one left but her. 6 months after Margaret's funeral, the cottage by the lake had transformed. Fresh paint brightened the exterior, new curtains framed the windows, and a basketball hoop, installed with much consultation of YouTube tutorials, stood proudly in the driveway. Inside, Noah's artwork covered the refrigerator, his backpack often flung carelessly by the door, despite Emma's gentle reminders. Emma sat at the kitchen table, nursing her morning coffee and reviewing Noah's math homework. The transition hadn't been easy. Explaining Noah's existence to curious neighbors, enrolling him in the local school, learning how to parent a grieving 9-year-old while processing her own complex emotions. There had been nights of silent tears, days of overwhelming doubt, moments when the ghosts of both Daniel and Lily seemed to fill every corner of the cottage. But there had also been unexpected joy. "Emma!" Noah's voice called from outside. "Come see? Quick!" Setting down her coffee, Emma hurried to the back porch. Noah stood at the edge of the yard, pointing excitedly toward the lake where a family of deer, a majestic buck, doe, and 2 fawns, drank from the clear water. "Just like in my drawing," he whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. Emma wrapped an arm around his shoulders, feeling him lean trustingly against her side. Noah had grown 2 inches since coming to live with her, his face losing some of its childish roundness. The resemblance to Daniel grew stronger each day. "Should we take a picture?" she suggested softly. Noah shook his head. "Some things are just for remembering," he replied with unexpected wisdom. "Abuela Maria says memories in here," he tapped his chest, "are the strongest kind." Maria still lived with them, though her role had transformed from caretaker to beloved grandmother figure. Her arthritis limited her activities, but her presence provided crucial continuity for Noah and companionship for Emma on the days when single parenthood felt overwhelming. "Are you ready for the art fair tomorrow?" Emma asked as they walked back toward the house, the deer forgotten as Noah's enthusiasm shifted. "Ms. Patterson says my painting might win a ribbon," he exclaimed. "I've been working on it forever." Emma smiled. 3 weeks is hardly forever." "That's practically 1,000,000 years, Noah insisted, with the dramatic flair that always reminded Emma of Margaret. "But it's a surprise. You can't see it until tomorrow." "I can't wait," Emma promised, ruffling his hair. That evening, after Noah had gone to bed, Emma sat in what had once been Daniel's study at their old house, now converted to a home office in the cottage. The move had been necessary. Too many memories haunted the rooms she had shared with Daniel. The cottage, despite its connection to deception, offered a fresh start. She opened the leather journal, Daniel's diary, which had become both comfort and torment over the past months. Some entries still brought anger rushing back, hot and sharp. Others revealed the depth of Daniel's regret, his love for both Noah and Emma, his impossible situation largely of his own making. A particular entry, dated shortly before his death, had become Emma's touchstone. "Watched Noah playing chess with Mother today. He has Emma's concentration, that same small furrow between the brows." How could two people who have never met share such similarity? Perhaps the heart recognizes its other pieces, scattered though they may be. I dream of them meeting someday, these two who hold my entire heart between them. I dream of forgiveness I don't deserve, and a family reborn from the ashes of my mistakes. Emma closed the journal gently. Daniel had been wrong about one thing. Noah didn't have her concentration. That particular mannerism had been Daniel's own, one she had teased him about throughout their marriage. Even in his deepest reflections, he had begun to see Noah and Emma as already connected, already family. Perhaps, in his own way, he had been preparing for this outcome all along. The next morning dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for the community art fair at Noah's school. The gymnasium buzzed with excited children and proud parents examining artwork displayed on colorful panels throughout the space. "This way," Noah tugged Emma's hand, pulling her toward the 4th grade section. "Close your eyes." "I can't walk with my eyes closed," Emma laughed, but she obediently covered them with her free hand as Noah guided her forward. "Okay," he said, positioning her carefully. "Now look." Emma lowered her hand and felt her breath catch. Before her stood a canvas nearly as tall as Noah himself, painted with remarkable skill for a child his age. The scene showed the cottage viewed from the lake at sunset, its windows glowing warmly against the darkening sky. On the porch stood 3 figures, a tall woman with Emma's auburn hair, Maria with her silver bun, and between them, a boy with Daniel's smile. Above the cottage, rendered in swirls of purple and blue, floated 2 transparent figures that might have been missed by a casual observer, a man with a gentle smile and a small girl with butterfly wings. Watching over the cottage, watching over them. The painting's title, written in careful block letters, "My Family, Visible and Invisible." "Do you like it?" Noah asked nervously, misinterpreting Emma's silence. Emma knelt beside him, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. After a moment, she managed to whisper, "It's beautiful, Noah. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen." His face brightened. "Really? I worked super hard on getting the colors right, and I wasn't sure about adding Dad and..." He hesitated. "And Lily," Emma finished softly. Noah nodded solemnly. "Grandma Margaret told me about her before she died, said she would have been my sister." He studied Emma's face anxiously. "Is it okay that I put her in?" Emma gathered him into her arms, holding him tightly as tears slipped down her cheeks. "It's perfect," she whispered against his hair. "They're always with us, watching over us." "Like angels," Noah agreed. "Mrs. Stevens?" The art teacher approached, beaming. "I wanted to let you know that Noah's painting won first place in the district competition. It will be displayed at the community center next month." Later, as they celebrated with ice cream sundaes at Noah's favorite diner, he suddenly asked, "Can we visit them today?" Emma didn't need to ask whom he meant. Every Sunday afternoon, they brought fresh flowers to the cemetery where Daniel, Margaret, and Lily rested side by side. "Of course," she agreed. "We can tell them about your blue ribbon." At the cemetery, Noah carefully placed wildflowers on each grave, talking animatedly to the headstones about his painting, his teacher's praise, the deer by the lake. Emma watched him with a heart both broken and healed, marveling at how children could navigate grief with such natural grace. When Noah had finished his updates, he stepped back beside Emma, slipping his small hand into hers. "Do you think they're proud of me?" he asked softly. "I know they are," Emma assured him. "Just as I am." He leaned against her side, quiet for a moment before asking, "When school starts next year, can I write Noah Stevens on my papers, like a real son would?" Emma's heart stuttered. They hadn't discussed formal adoption, though her lawyer had suggested it would simplify legal matters. She had hesitated, feeling somehow that making Noah legally hers would erase Daniel's presence, would finalize a chapter she wasn't ready to close. But looking down at this child, this remarkable, resilient boy who had somehow found space in his heart to love her despite having every reason to resent her initial reluctance, Emma recognized the truth that had been growing within her for months. She knelt to meet his eyes, Daniel's eyes, and cupped his face gently. "Would you like that? To be Noah Stevens officially?" He nodded solemnly. "I know Dad made mistakes," he said with that uncanny wisdom that sometimes emerged from him. "Grandma Margaret explained that grown-ups mess up too. But she said what matters is how we fix things." His chin trembled slightly. "I think this would fix something, wouldn't it?" "Oh, Noah," Emma whispered, drawing him close. "I think it would fix many things." Over his shoulder, she gazed at the three headstones, Daniel, Margaret, and tiny Lily, feeling not the sharp pain of loss, but a strange sense of completion. The family Daniel had fractured through deception was reforming in ways none of them could have imagined. "Noah Stevens," she said, testing the name. "It sounds perfect." As they walked hand in hand back to the car, Noah pointed excitedly to a cardinal perched on Daniel's headstone. "Look, Grandma Margaret said when cardinals appear, angels are near." He squeezed Emma's hand. "I think they're saying yes." Emma smiled, watching the bright red bird against the blue sky. "I think so too," she agreed softly. It hadn't been blood that connected Emma and Noah in the end. What would you do if you were in Emma's place? Could you open your heart to the child born from betrayal? If this story touched your heart, give it a like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more stories that move, heal, and inspire. Your support brings these stories to life.